Moments with Mo, brought to you by Zenith Bank and GE.
About 30 years ago in Delta State, Nigeria, there was a fire incident, and little Oria Eboma was in the center of it. The story made various newspaper headlines at the time with varying accounts of the incident. Tonight on Moments with Mo, we're on a fact-finding mission, digging deeper to unveil the truth. We also find inspiration in Oria's against all odds story. Yeah, I mean, when I think about the story, and I mean, obviously we're going to meet Oria and a few other guests today, trying to imagine something happening to you when you're a baby and then going through life and how you get your facts as to what exactly happened.
Yeah.
It's amazing how things can change your perception on life and also distort the way you view things, I guess. What comes to mind for me is, you know when they say Chinese whispers? So even there's something as little as you're in school and someone said that you said something. And by the time it goes around and the last person says, well, I heard that this person said this, it's a completely different story.
I remember when we were younger, because our teacher always wanted us to kind of understand the concepts of sharing stories and, you know, how do you analyze the truth when it finally gets to you. So we would do telephone, this game called telephone, and you would start off at the very end of the beginning of the line and say something like, my teacher is nice.
So you would whisper,
and then you whisper it, and maybe you could do it like 5, 6 people, and by the time it got there, it would be something like
my teacher's a frog.
Exactly. And my teacher would go through and she'd say, what did you hear, to find out where the story changes, you know. And it was always such an interesting game because we found it fun as kids, but thinking about it now as you get older, it is true in the fact that when stories are shared, there's always an interpretation that's different, no matter who's writing the story or what kind of story is being told.
Even when the incident did happen, it's like the different newspapers, they won't all have the exact same story. So where are they getting their facts and who's relaying the story? Even, let's think about today, social media. Obviously, social media wasn't what it was 30 years ago. With social media now, I'm even thinking about it. I mean, obviously 30 years ago, social media, there really wasn't
it didn't
any,
exist.
right? So thinking about now and how there are more sources where stories can spread and stories can change. When we return, meet Oria Eboma, the fire victim.
I grew up in the hospital, where from there I was taken to school.
Dedicated to people, technology, service. Zenith Bank, in your best interest.
Welcome back. Oria is here to share her version of the story with us. Oria, welcome to Moments with Mo.
Thank you.
How are you doing today?
I'm fine, thank you.
Thank you very much for coming here to tell your story.
Thank you.
So please, tell us what you know about what happened.
I was pretty little. I was 9 months old, so I really don't have a story, but what I gathered from various newspapers I had was I was 9 months old when the incident happened, and my mom was in the house. She left. What I heard was she had a cooking pot in the house, in the kitchen, and I was on the baby's cot. Then she went out probably to get something, and she didn't get back on time. But how the house went on fire, I don't know. But all I knew, the house was on fire. And what I also got to know was the fire affected, it didn't affect only me, but the fire affected several other people who were also involved. And at the end of the day, a doctor came to a rescue who packed everybody out of the incident that evening to a clinic where they took care of us. And I was the only one who survived, and I was later brought over to Lagos, to Ibobi Hospital, where I did the surgery. and several surgeries were done at different stages.
Okay.
And I grew up in the hospital, where from there I was taken to school.
Okay.
But the doctor in Lagos who did the surgery was made to understand that he just came into the country that year, and he was asked to do the surgery, which he did. And ever since then, I've been close to him, close to the other doctors and nurses in the hospital. I became the popular Oria everybody knew in the hospital.
Okay.
So I was shuttling between the hospital and the school. But most of the time, when I'm on holiday, if I have a surgery to do, I come over to Lagos to the hospital.
Okay.
I have my surgery done. When there is no surgery, I go back to school.
Okay. So, Ray, let's just go back a little bit. You said you found out from newspapers that several other people died. Do you know anything about the other people? Were they in neighboring houses, or was there any more information about that?
I don't know anything about them.
That.
I don't even know them.
Okay.
So.
And the doctor that came and saved everyone, was the person a passerby, or they heard that there was a fire and they came to save everyone else?
What I know was the doctor lived in that town.
Right, okay.
That was as at that time, that was the only clinic in that town. So it wasn't as if the clinic, the incident happened in the village. So I think the distance between the village to the town was about, I was told, was about 10 to 15 minutes drive.
Wow, okay.
So I think the doctor came.
Okay. And sorry, what's the name of the village?
Ekoma village in Abavo.
What state is it in?
Delta State.
Delta State.
Yes.
Okay.
So, as you were growing up and you were in the orthopedic hospital, you grew up, tell us a little bit about your family and your mom. What memories or recollections do you have of her?
Initially, I had nothing. But while I was in school, they arranged for my mom coming to say hello to me.
Okay.
They brought her to Lagos, and they kept her in the hospital. They got her a place at the hospital where she stayed. So I was brought from school to come and see her. So initially when I saw her, I really didn't know much about her. So I was just looking at her. She came with one of my elder brother. I was just looking at her. I couldn't, because they speak more of my language, and I don't understand the language. I speak English. So the communication between us was a little bit poor.
Okay.
So, but someone came who happened to interpret for us. So whatever she says, they tell me, I reply, and tell her. So that was the conversation all through. So I was really too bit not too okay with her, because not because she was poor, because she happens to be a farmer, but not because she was poor or anything, but the kind of background I had already.
Yeah.
I had this kind of Lagos life.
Okay. How old were you? When I first
met her, yeah. I think I was in secondary school, so I should be like between 12 and 13.
Okay.
Because I was still in secondary school when I met her.
How come she had not found you before?
Well, I wouldn't know much about that. Probably she didn't know I was alive.
Okay.
Or probably there was no enough communication, because I knew the press people were to go to the village to go and find out my people, see how they could bring them. But all that, they didn't allow that to bother me.
Okay.
So I was just going on with my school, and I already had a mindset that everybody in the hospital was my father, was my mother, especially the doctor who took care of me. So I was so close to him, so I took him as my father.
Okay.
But you knew that he wasn't your biological father?
Yeah, it was later I knew he wasn't. I've always think it was my father.
How old did you find out that he wasn't your biological father?
I found out when I was in secondary school.
Okay, so around the same time when you met your mother?
That was when I found out he wasn't my biological, because I was used to calling him daddy.
Okay.
And in hospital, I knew they were always calling him Baba Oria.
Okay.
So, you know, all the nurses, everybody at Baba Oria. So that's how
And when
I
you
knew.
found out that he wasn't your biological father, how did you feel?
I felt bad, but that was even when I asked him, so where is my father?
And what did he say?
He told me the story that my father died, I think maybe after I was born.
Okay.
Maybe 2 months after I was born or a year after I was born. I wasn't too sure, but he told me that my father was late.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, but do you have a picture? I don't know him. I've never seen him. I don't know how he looks. What is his name? So I was told, okay, he bears pious. So I tried to find out, okay, what does he do? He said he was also a farmer in the village.
What were you told? I'm going to ask you a question about your mother because I'm curious to find out what you knew initially about your mother before you actually met her. So we're gonna discuss that after the break. Just hold on 1 second. We'll be right back after this break with more of Oria's story.
Not everybody wants to talk to you because of your condition. Not everybody wants to be your friend. So I was mostly all alone most of the time.
Dedicated to people, technology, service. Zenith Bank, in your best interest.
Welcome back. We are still here and we're hearing more about Oria's story. So before the break, you had said that you grew up thinking that the doctor was your father until you were about between the ages of 12 and 15.
Yeah.
Now, since you thought the doctor was your father, did you ever wonder who your mother was or where your mother, what had happened to her?
Yeah, I also asked him concerning my father, concerning my mother, which he told me my mother was also a farmer in the village, that they were going to bring her to Lagos for her to see me so that we could get to know each other and bond as a family if possible. So I said, okay, that was good. That was when they brought her. So after they brought her and she left, because she didn't want to stay long. And the reason being why she didn't want to stay, she didn't like Lagos life.
Yeah.
Okay.
She told the hospital she wanted to go back and she left. And that was the last I saw her.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you were 15?
Yeah.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about some of your physical limitations, because when the fire happened, you were badly burned.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your limitations.
Ever since then, I've lived with it. It's been a big problem, but God has been on my side. My dad has always been supporting me all along. But I had issues where, when you're in school, it didn't even get to me all through primary, secondary school.
Okay.
I was still normal because when I was in secondary school, it was a joke with my friends when I teased them with my arm, and I like, okay, if you find my trouble, I'll use it to beat you. And I was always teasing them, and the only challenge I had in school was when little children sees me, they always cry.
Yeah.
So I know I had challenges with that. And then I wasn't even using the scarf. I felt everybody was okay. Nobody had problems. We didn't have problems. Everything was fine. But when I got admission into the university, because I went to Yaba Tech first before going to Unilag. When I got admission into Yaba Tech, that was where the problem started.
Okay.
Because I had this inferiority complex.
Okay.
I was in another world entirely, outside from my school and my schoolmates and everybody. So I had to come into another system where everybody was always just looking at you. And you're like, why are they looking at you? What's the problem? Is it because of this? That's the problem. So I now had to look for a solution myself. That was when I had the scarf. Okay. So it was then I wasn't feeling comfortable at all with it. Yeah, it's not as if people still don't know. They do. But the point is, the ones that will accept you,
Of course.
and the one who won't accept you won't. So I had that challenge in school that not everybody wants to talk to you because of your condition. Not everybody wants to be your friend. So I was mostly all alone most of the time. But somewhere along the line, I developed that, okay, if you don't want to be my friend, I want to be your friend. Not because I really want to be your friend, but because of the academic system.
Okay.
I want to have something to do. Okay, can I know your notes? Something like that, all for academic purposes. So that was. I know I had several challenges on that.
Yeah.
But I managed all along.
Okay, Ray, we're going to take another quick break and we'll be right back with you. Oria's brother's account when we return. The story that he's just told us about the lantern and it hitting the mat. When did you first hear that?
The one he was just telling me now, I heard that about 2 days ago.
Wow. Okay.
Dedicated to people, technology, service. Zenith Bank, in your best interest.
Welcome back. Oria's brother is also here, and he was at home on the day of the fire incident. He has a few things to say.
Ijima, welcome to the show.
Welcome.
Thank you, ma'am.
Fantastic.
Yes, ma'am.
So please tell us, how old were you when the fire happened?
4 years old.
You were 4 years old.
Yes.
So anything you can remember, please tell us what happened that day.
My mother told me the story of my younger sister where the thing is happened.
Okay.
Because I'm very small. I cannot live tell the story. Okay. But my mother told me the story when everything is happened.
Okay.
So my mother puts mat under the floor. He keep this native lights, this oil lights on top of the mat, the corner of the mat. So he went out early morning, want to go and urinate. As he urinates finish, so our neighbor is quarreling within the compound there. My mother went to go and listen to the quarrel. From there, when my mother came, the fire is exploding.
Wow.
So my junior sister is awaking early morning. We want to see our mother, want to suck. From there, as he struggle, from there the lantern fell down, explodes inside the house.
Okay.
That is the story my mother told me.
After the incident happened, what did your mother tell you about happened to your sister?
So my mother told me that my sister, I think that my sister is already late.
Okay.
But after that, they took my sister to hospital, Abo. They from Abo, they referred my sister to Lagos, Djibouti, as the Keja. So from there, they left, my mother left my sister at Lagos, came back to home. So my mother think that my sister is already late. I cannot survive for that fire.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So after when my mother came back, my father asked her, what of my daughter? He said he left her at Bobi Hospital.
Okay.
So from there, we started crying. And that time, I am too small.
Still small.
Okay.
Okay. So how did you find out that your sister was still alive?
Now from newspaper,
okay,
we see it. From there, we start to locate how we want to go see my sister, whether it's alive or whether it's a story.
Okay. And do you remember how old you were when you found out that she was still alive?
That time, I'm almost 10 years.
Okay.
So you were older by this time?
Yes, 10 years.
Okay, so after that, when did you see Oria again?
1992.
Okay. Okay. So, Oria, when you first met your brother and he told you, did he tell you the story when he first met you?
No.
Okay. Did you ask him at all about the story?
I think initially, when they brought them, when they came to Lagos, I didn't ask them anything.
Okay.
Because I met them at the social worker's office.
Right.
So it was there the social worker said, okay, it was going to, we should tell her the story. And I could hear about it. That was when they were telling the social worker what happened. And I think they left immediately, then I think they left the next day or so.
And sorry, so were you present when they were telling the social worker the story?
Yeah, I was present, but I think I was small.
Right, okay. When did you first hear the story that he's just told us about the lantern and it hitting the mat? When did you first hear that?
I heard that, the one he was just telling me now, I heard that about 2 days ago.
Okay,
Wow.
so my question is, how come you only heard it 2 days ago?
What happened is, since I've heard the story from several newspapers.
Okay.
So I tried to see if I could get most of those newspapers. But what happened was most of the newspapers, I think they were no longer in existence then. So the only thing I did was, because I knew Guardian was still on ground because Guardian took the story. So I just went to Guardian newspaper and asked if I could get some of the story.
Okay.
So they just gave me the whole, because they had something like they had like a file for me where they had all the stories. So I just collected them and just kept it.
Okay.
Because I was like,
so
I've heard the stories from different newspapers, so there was no point. So I just collected the papers and I just kept it. And I've always been keeping the papers ever since.
I understand. I think I would assume that you would want to hear, I mean, I know he was very young, he said he was 4 years old, from someone who was actually there compared to stories in a newspaper. Do you see what I mean? That is sort of the angle I'm coming from. But we're going to talk a bit more about this. We're going to take a quick break and we will be right back after this.
The paper said we are looking for money to take her to Germany for plastic surgery.
Dedicated to people, technology, service. Zenith Bank, in your best interest.
Oria has undergone surgeries over the past 30 years, and Dr. Aramolate is a doctor who's been operating on her since she arrived in Gubui Hospital. He's here to give his own version of the story.
Doctor, you're welcome.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
How are you doing today?
Well, fine. It's good to be in the Calabar again.
Well, it's great to have you here.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
So we've heard Oria's story and her brothers. We want to hear your version of the story.
It was 1984.
Okay.
I was giving a lecture to a group of nurses in the hospital, and one of them came forward to say, "Can't you get involved with that girl in the newspaper?" Unfortunately, I wasn't in Nigerian newspaper at that time.
Okay.
It wasn't a long time I came over overseas. I said, "No, I have not said anything about any baby." I said, "Get me paper tomorrow, or if you don't find me, just sleep under my door." She did that, and I saw the picture. I studied it, looked at the implications of it, and see like the involvement of the cheek, of the neck, and everywhere. And I thought we could do something.
Yeah.
But the paper said you are looking for money to take her to Germany for plastic surgery.
Okay.
So I wrote to the doctor at Agbo here. So one evening, about 6 o'clock, they brought Uri with the mother to Lagos, to the hospital. Up close, they called me. I went back there to see her. It was a small baby, 9 months old, undernourished, dehydrated because it was losing saliva from the mouth regularly. But it was living. So we admitted her. I studied her every day. I would go there to see the easiest way to do it, that wouldn't affect her life, to give a good result.
Yeah.
For about 2 weeks, we propped her up, got her nourished, she became bigger and more healthy, and went to the surgery.
So what surgeries, what exactly was wrong with her? Because you mentioned that her face was joined to her chest. What else was wrong?
The neck was down here. The lip here was about close to the breast. Don't close the mouth. You know, when you can't close your mouth, you cannot control the saliva.
Yeah.
And the arm, the little arm that was left, was stuck to the side. So everything was glued up together. It was a very serious matter. So we then staged out the operation. It must be the neck first. Then the other things would follow. So we separated the neck And I just set the lip back to position and made her give her a neck again.
Okay.
That was the first operation. The second one was to separate the arm. That was also a very technical operation because the breast pod, that a little bit like this, that produces the breast, grow into a big thing in an adult, but you've got to see. So you have to study where it was, able to preserve it.
Okay.
If you didn't preserve it, remove it, the breast will go. If you put it here, the breast will grow here.
Wow.
So we tried to study that, and we saved what we thought it was, which it was at the end of the day, and separated the arm.
Okay.
The other, what I call touch-up operations to correct a little bit other things were done. About 8 operations were done that time, but the first operation took us about over 4 hours, and 4 doctors were involved, led by me.
Yeah.
And it came out very, very nice. I mean, we are very pleased with it.
While you were talking, you mentioned that, you know, she grew up thinking that you were her biological father.
Yeah.
Can you tell us why, how come she was never told that you were not her father?
There was no official declaration about that.
Okay.
When she was brought to the hospital, I was the one that invited her. So I was the head of my unit, of the Department of Plastic Surgery. So I was the only one going there because I was designing the whole thing. The doctors working under me, they do rotation.
Okay.
After about 3 months or so, they moved to the other one. So I'm the only permanent staff. So I'm the father of Oria. That's people you say about Oria. And Oria was becoming popular then after the first surgery. Now, because they called her a little baby, at that time she was about just a year.
Yeah.
At a year birthday, which the guardian under Hebrew did for her, the pious came, the father and the mother, they all came, showed them on television. But 6 months later, pious was gone. And so the condition hospital remained the same thing. But Papa, she was still a little baby. Anyway, she didn't know father or mother from anything. And so she grew up with that mentality.
Okay.
That Papa, and I was the only one people that could say coming every day to see her in the hospital. Other doctors, nurses were passing by, but I was more regular. Then when it came to the point of leaving the hospital, I was the one that took charge of everything.
Okay.
With the Guardian newspaper, he took her to the boarding house. And I was the one going to see her there.
Okay, Doctor, you mentioned that when they first brought the case to you, you weren't reading the newspapers. So did anyone by word of mouth tell you what actually happened the day of the fire?
They told me that it was that morning. She was lying on this mat thing, and this local palm oil lamp was put at one side.
Okay.
And they think when they got in, the father's mat was burning. And she was a little baby. If she could crawl, she probably could have moved away, but somehow she was just fighting, probably on the right side. And that's why she got the hand badly burnt. Okay. Nobody was inside. Other things were guessing. Maybe she was trying to get up and trying to find mother, but nobody knew how it happened inside. But what we knew that was how it was before the fire. And she was born. When they came back, found it was burning. That was all.
And who did they tell you took her out of the building, and who saved her?
My point, I think the mother would have done, I thought, because the mother took her to the doctor. My story initially started from the doctor. Yeah. That the mother brought her in. The father objected to it, but the man was a Catholic man, very religious, because 2 of his children, one is a girl, was his sister. One of the sons is a father. So I think they must be a religious home. He took over the story, the child, and was just spending his money, taking care of her until she survived. But I came in really when she was about 9 months old. There was no single wound on her. Everything has healed up. Okay. Like she was
deformed.
Severely deformed. Yeah. That was when I came in. Those fine details, because we don't know that I really needed. If I say maybe in the little talk I heard about them, and I didn't keep them strongly in my head, because Mine was to make her...
Just to make her... You were more concerned about her well-being.
A good future.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, Doctor, you've taken such an interest in Oria's case. Can you tell us about her education? And you paid for her education?
I paid partly for the education. Okay. We had a formal committee headed by one gentleman from Bendel State then. And we got Bendel State government involved because they were interested in her. So it was that man as a chairman, a lady from Bendel State government, myself, guardian, and I think I had to ask somebody from Igobi again apart from me. So with this committee, it was so powerful because we were empowered really. So we took a lot of decisions for her.
Wow, your story is astonishing, and thank you so much for sharing it with us. We thank the three of you for coming on here and telling all your stories.
Thank you for calling us.
And you know, Doctor, you raised an amazing girl, so thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you, man.
Yeah. We'll be right back after this.
This year the incident happened by fire upon Oria's hand.
Dedicated to people, technology, service. Zenith Bank, in your best interest.
Welcome back. We went to Delta State on our fact-finding mission. Here's what we came up with.
Oria's father is a farmer, the mother is a farmer. They are now late. They're about around either 83 or 84. They gave birth to Oria.
Oria Eboka is our daughter who have injury, that is by fire disaster.
She was about either 2 months or 3 months, either 2 or 3. When she was lying down in a mat, you know, as regards, you know, how the village setting is. She was lying down in the mat with this hurricane lamp lit by her side. Maybe during the period she was crying, her leg or her hand touches the hurricane. That came fall, the lamp fell down, then started burning the mat, then started from the mat to herself.
I mean, here is Oria's father's house. This year the incident happened by fire upon Oria's hand.
So unfortunately, people was around there. They shouted at them before they come and rush her to the hospital. They was there. They call our family, both our family and the community. They rush her to Abo, or the hospital. Call a doctor and then one.
I mean, they carry a mother with his father go Dr. Ndewa.
Dr. Ndewa was the only medical practitioner around that in a cast out as at that time. Then he accepted to treat the child. Then they started the work. Later, she lost one of her lips. Then because of the point, the neck was joined to the shoulder. Then the man started taking care of her. At a time, the man started appealing for help for individual to come to Oria's aid. Then later, after some time, they were about flying her over for treatment for plastic surgery to separate the hand from the neck. Then it was then, according to him, he had one Dr. Ademulata, who now said that surgery can be done in Nigeria, and they took her to Lagos. That is where they were able to separate the neck from the hand. Already, before taking her to Lagos, the lips from here down is already off.
Oh, I mean, I really don't want to say.
It's so interesting, just, you know, again, what we talked about in the beginning about sensationalism. The fact that
different versions.
They said that there were other people who, you know, had gotten injured in the fire.
And there was no one else.
There was no one else.
Yeah.
And, you know, here's someone who's believed this.
I was also amazed at the fact that when we were speaking to them, that she only found out 2 days ago that story from her brother. And at first I was doing the interview, I was a bit like, but why wouldn't you ask? But I guess if you've been told so many stories, maybe you just stop asking after a while. Because you would think, oh, you'd want to hear, but then I suppose he was 4 years old, so really, what can you recollect? But that's the story his mother told him, you know? But wow, that was mind-blowing.
Today's showcase feature is very interesting. Let's take a look at this.
I want them to know that people love them.
She's a child that has integrity.
She doesn't believe I can't do it. Tosa is a wonderful girl. She's this kind of girl that every family would have loved to have.
My name is Itosa Esiba. I am 7 years old.
When Tito was a year, that was when I noticed that this guy is very out for something else. When she noticed like paper on the floor, whether something is written or not, she will carry and be looking. When she was up to 2 years, some of the books that the brothers have already used, you know, I will now give it to her.
I have 58 books on my shelves. I have read Devotional Bible. I have also read King Arthur, Princess and the Pea, Cinderella, Snow White, How to Make Things with Your Hands. Yes, they have a book like that.
I encountered a Tahosa receiver in her school in the course of running the club. You know, basically, you go to these schools and children enroll to be part of this club.
When the spelling bee issue came up, they started with the upper primary. When they introduced for the lower primary,
Mom now decided to register me.
Since I registered Tosa will go and borrow her books. She will return her books. I've never paid one day.
She was amazing that at the competition last year, she took the first position, and not just her school, I think she beat every other person. Dele Momodu was moved to the point that he said, I'm giving this girl 100,000. This girl is spelling words that I don't even think I can spell.
When they gave me the 100,000, first of all, I gave it to Mr. Chidu to generate more books.
The next thing I saw was an envelope, and in it was 10,000. I said to the mom, why is she doing this?
I said, yes, that's what she told me.
Itosa is the first person that's actually giving money for books to be bought for children like her in the club, okay? It didn't stop there. The next thing I heard again was, I'd like to read with the kids at the motherless home.
I want them to learn how to read. I want them to know that people love them.
So the day we went to the home, we had books for the kids. We gave books to them. It also read to them, and you know, the parents, they were all there. Also gave what they could, you know, to the children at the home. Lovely home.
No one could argue that it's not very, very impressive that somebody of that age had that kind of talent and ability.
If I win the spelling competition, the same thing that I did with the other model that they gave me last year, the same thing that I would do with this one.
Wow. Man, kids these days, like, sometimes
Is it kids these days or is it her? Because think about it, the average kid doesn't think or live
but
like that.
I feel like I'm starting to hear more and more stories of children, and I feel, I don't want to say, let me not call them children, but they are kids.
You know, someone like that, it's not only the fact that she's passionate and generous and considering others, she's also very intelligent.
Yeah.
Because her mother mentioned, you know, that
from the age of 1, she could tell.
She was reading books when she was very young age. And I think when I see that, I can already see little glimpse of what her future would look like. You can already see that she's going to be a change maker in the world. You know that this is not just something that is going to go away, but she already is going to begin to leave a huge footprint on earth. So her mother should be very, very proud. I would love to produce a child like that. Up next, we have a health tip and a book review, so don't go anywhere. What I really liked about the book is the fact that it's interactive. So it's a 40-day guide.
Dedicated to people, technology, service. Zenith Bank, in your best interest.
Welcome back, and it's time for today's health tip. Intense exercise more than 5 times a week carries an increased risk of orthopedic problems and overuse injury. Well, hot diggity Dunkin' Donuts.
Best health review.
Basically, stop working out. Okay,
no. That's not what they're saying. I understand this.
This happened to my cousin.
It happened to your cousin. It happened to my cousin as well.
She was doing Insanity, and she was just really on the whole workout tip. She would basically do it 6 to 7 times a week.
Yeah.
And it got to the point where her knees were... She just messed up her knees.
You know what's really interesting?
And she's still working out.
I know for people who play basketball, I don't want to say for everyone who plays basketball, but the story I have is my cousin, this happened to him. He was playing basketball, and he used to play basketball all the time. And as he's gotten older, he's had serious problems with his knees.
Yeah.
Because when you think about it, I think in general, the body is never meant to be pushed too much to the limit. But, you know, good health tip, I'm going to...
You're going to not do exercise.
I feel like I'm going to use that to like not do any exercise.
Yeah. What's new? What's the book review for today?
So this book is called The Purpose-Driven Life by Rick Warren. I think this book is probably it's very popular. I mean, when you're driving around, if you're driving in traffic, if you're at any bookstore, you'll find this book. I read this book when I was about, I think I was 13 or 14 when I read this book. And what I really liked about the book is the fact that it's interactive. So it's a 40-day guide. And you go through the whole book, and each day has like a devotion or, you know, a reading. And each day takes you through what it means to live a purpose-driven life. So I'm just going to give a quick synopsis. The first purpose, he says, is you were planned for God's pleasure. Second purpose is you were formed for God's family. I should have disclaimed this book is primarily, it's a Christian book, so it comes from a very Christian perspective. He says purpose 3 is you were created to become like Christ. Purpose 4, you were shaped for God, for serving God. And purpose 5, you were made for a mission. And under each of those purposes, he goes through and says exactly what those things mean. This is a really good book. I highly recommend it for anyone who's trying to grow their spiritual life. If you have a book that you'd like us to review, you can send us an email, you can tweet at us, or you can send us a Facebook message. Up next, we have a financial tip and questions, and we're going to hear your comments, so don't go anywhere.
Welcome back. Today's financial tip is courtesy of Zenith Bank. Maintain records. Keep all receipts organized in a safe place where you'll be able to find them when you need them. The top reason for lost records is they simply weren't kept. When I was doing taxes in the UK, you have to file your tax for the year, right? You have to, okay, because I was working as an actress, so you have to keep your own receipts and do all that kind of stuff. That thing is hard. Very, very difficult. But keeping receipts, it really is a good way of, when you think, hang on, why have I overspent, or why haven't I got any money left this month? And you go back and you think, because sometimes if I sit down and I try and remember what I spent my money on, a lot of the time, and I'm like, okay, especially when it's not stuff you can see. Like, this is not good.
Yeah.
Like dinner every night out. So yeah, keeping records is definitely a good thing. Keep those receipts. Alrighty, now it's time for your questions or your comments. Let's see what we have in our mailbox today. First up, we have James from Ghana, and he says, I love this show, and I must say you ladies rock. When will you be visiting Ghana? We would love to meet you in person and host you. Oh, James, well, road trip, well, air trip, some trip to Ghana.
Yeah.
We should do an episode in Ghana.
That's what we have mentioned doing, you know, an episode in Obu. That hasn't happened. So maybe we should do an episode in Ghana. If, you know, there's any hotel that's interested in hosting us, we will take it.
Yes. Okay, so finally we have Mary from Abuja, and she says, I come from a rich home and my boyfriend from a not so rich background. And I pay the bills almost on all our dates. Is it wrong? Because friends are advising me to ditch him. Now, let's talk about your friends, Mary. No, let me not say that. If you were fine with it before your friends started talking, then I feel like her friends are swaying her decision.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, if you see prospects, if he's got potential, if he's looking for, if he has a job, it's just not, you know, I'm not saying that you have a better job, but if it's the money's from your family, then, you know, I mean, you obviously knew about his background when you first met him.
I think what you're saying is true. It's very key that she doesn't allow her friends to influence her. But at the same time, dear Mary, if, you know, you're not really feeling the fact that he's paying for everything, you need to think about the future. Are you expecting also, a certain kind of lifestyle? What are you expecting from him? And also,
is it a case of he can pay sometimes?
Yeah.
You know, I think it's just...
you just need to make sure that you are comfortable with who it is that you are currently
Because if you're going to date someone from a certain background and you know they can't afford to pay for meals, then you're going to be upset every time.
Yeah, and not only that, she needs to think long term, like what's happening in the future.
Yeah. Can you marry someone like that? If you can't, then, well, you need to think about that.
Exactly, yep.
Alrighty, thank you for your questions and your comments. If you have a question or a comment, we'd love to hear from you. Just send us an email, visit our Twitter handle or Facebook page.
Thank you so much for watching. It has been an extremely moving and inspiring episode.
Yes, it has, and thank you for staying with us, and we will see you on the next episode of Moments with Mo. And remember, if you can think it, you can do it. Take care. Bye-bye.
Moments with Mo was brought to you by Zenith Bank and GE.